It is time for an update on the smart car. It has now been a few months since I put this funky little Tikes paint job on here, and in that time I've also found an actual little Tikes cozy coupe to strap on the roof. But this did lead to one big problem, and that of course was noise. I will demonstrate that for you now. About 30 miles an hour now and nothing. I think about 40. Yep, there we go. It's like someone just turned on a switch of very annoying noise coming through the roof. And that's at about 55. We'll slow down. And it goes away. Pretty annoying, right? Especially because in America, going 40 miles an hour barely even gets you out of your driveway. I need to go faster than that if I'm actually going to drive this thing. So wind noise is the number one thing I'm going to address this time. And next up is the sound system. This little old Kenwood deck doesn't have Bluetooth, and I want Bluetooth. And the door speakers, I installed some Amazon freshies in there and they do all right. But I want some bass in this thing. So I have a random sub that I had on a shelf somewhere, and also a random Walmart amp that I had on a shelf somewhere. And last but certainly not least is a window tint. And this is where I'd put my window tint film if I'd remembered to order some. But I have the next best thing, and that is, of course, a measuring tape. So now I will use that to figure out how much window tint I need to order. I got the sub and the amp all installed and all the wiring run, but I found something very interesting when I tried to power on the head unit. So usually the two power wires to your radio, one of them's keyed power, one of them's constant power, they go through your factory wiring harness. But the people before me, for some reason, decided to make their own power wires, and not using regular wiring either. They just used speaker wire and tapped it into the fuse box. Sound system is done, probably not very well, but it's good enough for me. This is my little charging cable for my little wireless car charger. And that brings us back to the back, where there's an amp and a big old sub, and this thing is hooked up and it shakes the entire car. But next up is the roof. So these are what I have going through the roof. There's a washer on the bottom, and that sandwiches this little hook down in there, and you can strap things to it. And of course, the thing that I strap to it is this little Tikes cozy coupe, but that is not without its problem, mainly wind noise. So I think I'm going to address that by modifying it just a little bit. If this thing's just going to be a static display on top of my car, why leave it stock and functional? Why not maybe lower it down a little bit, maybe tilt the wheels out? That's more like it. I made a little front axle out of a bar of steel, and I've got the front wheels on. I need to trim down the axle a little bit, but I think that's right about where it's going to sit. And since this is going to be doing highway speeds on top of my car, I really wanted to make sure that none of these wheels would fall off, even though they're on a solid axle front and rear. I put a bolt going through them, got Loctite and lock nuts and all that good stuff. So obviously this does not roll anymore, but it still does this. And there we have it, all done. Each panel is either screwed or zip tied to another one, so it shouldn't dismantle itself on the freeway. We've got a wicked spoiler and just a little bit of ground clearance. This is so dumb looking, I love it. Cozy Coupe is now strapped down, and I'm hoping that this reduces the wind noise, but I really have no idea because I don't know what I'm doing with any of this, so we'll see. But now on to the tint. I got the best tint that I could find on Amazon, and by the best I mean the cheapest and the quickest shipping, so we're gonna see how that turns out. If there's anyone watching who considers themselves to be a perfectionist, what you're about to see is probably gonna hurt because I'm not very good at this. And done. And no, it doesn't look great. I missed a couple spots and I had to redo a couple spots because I tore it, but it is tinted. It is darker inside than it was before, and I'm gonna call that a wrap. But I now have one more thing I need to do to it. Boom. An even smaller one that's gonna go up top. Now this may look like some little 3D printed model, but it's an actual little Tikes product. And the door opens. Look at that. And there we are. So, while this may be one of the dumbest things that I've ever made, people seem to love it. And with that, until next time.